Hello and welcome to In the Envelope, an awards interview podcast. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting. I'm here to spotlight some of the most exciting film, television, and theater awards contenders working today. Who is in the running? What makes an awards-worthy performance? And what, dear listeners, are the secrets to giving one? We're sitting down for intimate, inspirational interviews with actors and artists to get that insider's perspective on these questions and more. It's an opportunity for some of today's most talented stars to share their craft and career advice, and maybe, just maybe, provide a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
You have to be patient, you know, and there are some that will hit right off the bat, and it's about trying not to compare, which is the other thing that's
so hard.
So difficult not to see someone else have success and you feel like you're being jilted or that you're not doing it, you know? It's like, oh, look at him or look at her. Why are they having that? Why they're not that good? I'm better than them. And it's comparing. You only compare yourself to your own growth.
Ron Cephas Jones, Jamie.
Yeah.
Welcome. We just heard Ron Cephas Jones' lovely voice.
Oh, so unique.
Yes.
And musical.
And we have to talk about, I have in my notes here that we have to mention jazz. We talked a lot about like odd jobs, what we at Backstage call survival jobs, and how that is like a formative part of Ron's trajectory as an actor. But jazz, I feel like, is essential to his trajectory, but it's also essential to who he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is he a jazz musician? Is he a singer?
Yeah. He's played the piano. He's a musician. His daughter is a musician. I also have in my notes that we have to explain for those who don't know. Ron's daughter is Jasmine Cephas Jones, who people would probably know from Hamilton. She was in the original cast of Hamilton. Yes. And she also has this big, I think, future ahead of her. But so does Ron.
Yeah.
So exciting. What's going on with Ron?
Yeah, he's hitting his stride later in life, but
exactly.
You know.
And it's all because he has earned it. He's paid his dues and he's worked hard and he's a magnificent actor. Yeah. And it's because he worked really hard on stage and often in we really got into the details on this. Like he was working in the downtown theater scene, which is the kind of place where you work when you have to give that your all and just scrape by. That's the lifestyle that he kind of chose. And look where it's got him now. He's a 2-time Emmy nominee.
Right, and he will absolutely appreciate the success that he has right now because of all those that slow build.
That's right. And it's crazy too. I didn't realize that he has all these connections when you work in that scene and when you work hard as long as he has. Like he was friends with Philip Seymour Hoffman. They worked very closely together. He's friends with Tom Hardy of all people. And will be in an upcoming movie with him. Like Ron is about to be, I was very excited to hear about his upcoming show that he's actually going to be filming at the same time as This Is Us, which is a Reese Witherspoon new series starring Octavia Spencer, which sounds awesome, which is about podcasts.
Okay.
By the way, I know.
Meta.
Yeah. So, but yeah, This Is Us. I know that fans of This Is Us, maybe that's why you're listening to the podcast. We've had Mandy, we've had Milo. It's a great, there's the reason we've had the actors from that show on this podcast is because the actors on that show are amazing.
Yes, and we're working our way through.
We really are. Believe me, I'm knocking down Sterling's door. Trying to get Sterling on this podcast. We'll get him eventually. Sterling's nominated too. So is Milo. Congratulations, Milo.
Yeah.
And Ron for the second year in a row. It's so deserving. For fans of this podcast who don't necessarily know This Is Us, one thing to know about Ron's character on This Is Us is that he died in season 1.
Right, yeah.
It's no secret. He had cancer as of the very first episode of the series. But he has some really lovely, that's why the guest Emmy category is so great, because a great actor gets to come back in, even if they've died, and kind of steal the show. And Ron did it just so beautifully in season 2. He had this really lovely monologue, and there's just something that radiates off of him on the screen.
Yeah.
And I just really like this interview because we talked about having faith or trust in yourself, trust in others too, but faith in yourself is kind of what it all comes down to. This idea of like trust that the inspiration you've soaked up in life over your years of existing is going to inform your work.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe like pour out onto the screen. Basically, like watch Ron give a beautiful monologue on This Is Us, and then listen to this interview because I do think he exposes a little bit about how he does that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes. Okay, Ron, let's do it. Hey, are you ready? Yes, you, listener. Are you ready to take the advice and the inspiration you've heard here in today's interview and use it in your own acting career? Is it something maybe you've always considered doing? Are you at the very beginning of your acting career? Are you well into your acting career and you're a fan of this podcast and you're ready to take those next steps? Backstage is here for you. This podcast is brought to you by Backstage, and what we are offering listeners to this podcast is a free 30-day trial. That's right. We are giving you 30 days completely free to try out Backstage. All you need to do is go to checkout, backstage.com/subscribe, and enter the code ENVELOPE. That's right. If you enter the code ENVELOPE at checkout, ENVELOPE, that's how you spell envelope, you get 30 free days on Backstage.com. Browse our thousands of casting notices. Learn why it's the world's #1 casting platform. If you are an actor and you haven't signed up yet for Backstage, I don't know what to tell you. Get on it. Ron Cephas Jones worked for years in odd jobs and gradually as a working actor on stage. His work with downtown New York's Labyrinth Theater Company put him in contact with some of today's best artists of stage and screen. After steady work in film and TV, Ron became beloved by TV audiences on NBC's This Is Us as the poetic William Hill, aka Shakespeare, biological father to Sterling K. Brown's Randall Pearson. Nominated at the Emmys for the second year in a row, Ron is looking back on an impressive career and is also just getting started. Here it is, our interview with the lovely Ron Cephas Jones. How familiar are you with Backstage? Did you ever use Backstage?
I used to go to the magazine store. That
Yes.
was the first thing I used to grab was Backstage and Showbiz, you know.
Good.
That was the Bible that was the only thing in town at the time, you know, when I was first coming around. So yes.
Good.
I'm new to podcast stuff.
Sure.
But,
okay.
certainly the periodicals in the paper back in the day when that's all you had. So yes.
As
Backstage.
well as like doing press as an Emmy nominee. This is only your second year.
That's right.
Consecutive year.
God bless. Knock on wood.
Is it any different this second year? Do you know what to expect this time around?
I'm always humbled just by the whole idea. It's all still fairly new to me, you know. Having your work recognized in that way and, you know, just understanding the validity and how to use it in regards to Hollywood scene and the Los Angeles scene between TV and movies. So I'm learning a lot.
Sure.
About two different towns, New York and LA, and also from theater to translating the work into film and television, you know, and but it's always humbling, you know, when I didn't even know that I was being submitted this year. I found out later when certain periodicals were saying that Ron Cephas Jones was in the running for maybe another nomination. And
you were surprised.
I was very surprised. I called my agent and manager and they were like, yeah, you're being considered again, you know, so
cool.
PR people started calling. And so, but I guess the first word I think about is humble. It's just still very new and humbling for me, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I love it. You know, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Well, certainly it's humbling and surprising when it's season 2 and your character's been dead for the whole season. It's kind of great.
That's the other interesting thing about the show. You know, it was one of the things that, you know, I was concerned about because I knew that the character was going to pass away sooner or later. In the first season, they were still deciding, well, are we going to kill him off? Are we going to have him in treatment? But Dan was like, no, it just felt right that we take this story to its fullest and to the first season. But automatically he was saying, but that's the way the show is. It doesn't mean that the character will be gone. So that's what we started to develop in season 2 was maybe 4 episodes, and then now season 3, we're going to see William again.
Yeah.
In a bigger way too. So, and I still don't know to what validity, how many episodes, but that's the news that I got, that William's coming back in a very big way, in season 3.
Huh.
So,
yeah. And it's funny because this most recent couple podcast episodes ago, we interviewed both Mandy Moore and Milo Ventimiglia. Milo and I sat right here. And I asked them the question that's always intrigued me about This Is Us or about shows like it, where you are playing a character and you're creating this person, but it's not until later that you get more information about that character.
That's right.
How do you navigate this? It's very much a puzzle piece kind of a show.
It's very interesting. Sometimes it's a bit annoying when you're used to preparing a certain way.
Yep.
But you get used to it, you kind of get used to it. And it's always about wanting to know, you want to get as much information as possible. But the information comes per episode, it seems like. And so you develop a way of learning how to study with it and take the next step to the character as it comes, as opposed to filling his whole life out as you usually do with the full script.
Gotcha.
So you do it basically just a episode at a time, I think Mandy, Sterling, and Milo, those cats get a lot more information because they have a longer, thicker, drawn-out storylines, So they probably get a lot more information than, say, I do, or maybe someone like Gerald McCraney or some of the guest spots, So... but the other cats, they get a lot more information, so they have a lot more to work on,
so, to kind of juggle and keep track of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and I mean, William is such a beautiful character. It's almost like he's made richer by seeing him in glimpses.
It is.
And that's why it works that he died in the first season, and it still works.
I attribute that to the writing. The writing is so good. At least I've been fortunate that the writers write William the way they do, and exciting to go back to your question earlier of not knowing. It's the excitement of anticipation.
Sure.
Knowing that the writers are so good, they're going to write something great for you.
Oh, cool.
You just don't know exactly what it's going to be or what angle they're going to take until maybe a week before. You might get the script or 2 weeks before at the most.
Yeah.
But it's great that good anticipation.
I was going to say, so it could be a bad anticipation, but you're choosing to you trust the writers too.
Trust the writing, important. So you know it's going to be something good, and so you're anticipating whatever it is. You're excited about getting it and working on it.
You mentioned the idea of creating a backstory or like fleshing out a character's whole life completely. Is that your go-to process? Do you have like a?
Well, you try to. I think in the beginning, before the first season started, Dan had all the actors, the main actors, come into the office and talk about some of our own ideas, about what they had in store for the characters, where they wanted the characters to go, what kind of ideas and development. So right from the beginning, we had an idea of who William was and where he kind of came from and what kind of life that he had been living and where he's going. So we had some kind of structure. And then within that structure, so many different stairways was added, hallways were added, renovations were made, but we had a structure. And that's usually the first thing you look for in a character, some kind of structure of where the foundation of the character, who are they, why are they existing here, and for what reason, are they serving the story?
Yeah.
So you kind of follow that line as you go along, and that helps me as an actor to at least get a sense of who the character is so that everything else can be filled in. Then you can ask the question, well, if he's this, why would he do that?
Right.
And you see it in the writing. I thought that he was, and then you'll get an answer and you say, oh, okay, so that's another layer that I can put in there, so it doesn't throw you off, but when you have that foundation, you have something to hold on to where you can springboard your questions from.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
As you get the writing, it's like, okay, I thought it was a studio, but why is it here? Or what? I thought maybe the last studio I saw it had this, just even walking into the studio today, it's like you develop questions. Well, am I going to be sitting here? You're going to be sitting there?
Mm-hmm.
When I first came in, I thought I was going to be sitting there. I was saying, no, I sit here because I need my back and I need to so forth and so on. So
and that's all the prep. That's all
the
before
prep
you get
and
there.
Development, right?
Yeah.
How you're developing the character as you go along.
And once you get there, it is about being in the moment.
In the moment.
Which is something I want to ask you about. I'm always trying to get actors to define for me what that means, like staying in the present.
Well, I was thinking about that not too long ago, and I'm only going to speak from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to be able to trust being in the moment. It's about trust, and it's about trusting yourself so that what that does is bring about a process of what I call not acting, where your subconscious can lead you anywhere you need to go in that moment that you're in the scene because of the preparation that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you prepare and you learn how to have good study habits where you know how to learn your lines, not only just learn your lines, but learn them in a way that you can say them backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Learn them in a way that you can pick out words from different sentences at any given moment. Learn them in a way that you can invert them and still memorize them.
Oh,
Learn them to where you can say them backwards as well as forward. So much so that they get into your subconscious so that you can't ever lose them because they're there. So that by the time you get to the scene, you're in the moment because you're not thinking about it. You're thinking about who's in front of you, and then you're going to just react to what's been given you. And that's not easy. It wasn't easy for me. I can't speak for other actors, but it took me a long time to learn that. And I first got the idea from working with Philip Seymour Hoffman when he was artistic director and working with us on 2 plays that I had the opportunity and fortunate to work with. And he was the first one to kind of lay that idea on me. Like he used to say things to me like, stop acting. Like you're just acting all over the place. You're not in the moment. You're not giving me who you are. Who are you? Stop hiding behind this character that you're developing. Who are you? Who is Ron? And I want to see him. I want to see his feeling, his emotion. So, and that's a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of actors act that so that they don't have to show it. Whereas the whole idea is to strip away the other stuff so you can get to the core of who this man really is and how this man really feels about this situation that he's in. So, and what I got from him was that the more and the better you prepare, the more you're able to allow yourself to trust, to be in the moment. Because first of all, you get rid of fear because of confidence. You build confidence. Confidence battles fear. That gut feeling in your thing that you're going to mess up or you're going to drop a line or you're going to forget. That all goes away because you know you've prepared and then you start to trust.
Yes.
Not only yourself, but you trust. That's why it's important to trust who you're working with also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have a good relationship with the person that you're working with, you know. And a good example of that in This Is Us was when I first started working with Sterling and Susan.
Yeah.
And knowing that they were both from New York and knowing that Sterling had studied very similar ideas to what I studied.
Yeah, totally.
Because he went to NYU and Phil also studied at NYU and Mark Wing Davies, who has a technique there, which is actioning, and like Steppenwolf in Chicago, where they do Tesserects. And it's a very similar way of getting to the core of trusting in the process and being in the moment. So I'm not sure if that helped to answer your question, but
it very much did. No, I love it. The trusting, I've never quite thought of it as subconscious versus conscious. Like if you prep enough and get it in your system, then the subconscious is almost just taken care of.
Taken care of.
And it does the work for you.
You don't have to think.
And then in the moment, quote unquote, that's conscious. That's just
right.
what you're doing in that moment, right then and there.
It's like waking up in the middle of the night and going to the bathroom without having to cut a light on.
Yeah, without really waking up.
Yeah, without really waking up.
Cool.
You just kind of know.
Yeah.
You get there, you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands or whatever, all while you're still kind of sleeping.
Yeah.
You don't really have to cut
trust.
a light on. It's just trusting that your body knows.
That's the trust, too.
What to do.
And trust is very tied to confidence, especially when it's related to trusting yourself.
That's right.
And it's funny what you said about vulnerability, because I almost feel like it's trust requires vulnerability. And so trusting yourself actually weirdly means becoming vulnerable with yourself.
That's right.
And that's easier said than done.
That's easier said than done.
And it takes what? Practice.
It takes years. For me, it took years.
Years, yeah.
Of trying to understand it. And so because for years I've built a wall to protect myself.
As we all do. Yeah.
We all do as human beings. You do that constantly on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You're putting up walls to protect the inner you.
Yeah.
The childlike you. You know, that's why theater games are important early on, you know, to try to
play.
The sense of playing again, you know, because as adults, we like, oh, stop playing. Don't play around. Don't play around on the subway. Don't play around over there. And be important. Oh, put your tie on. Put your you know, we build these things to protect us from being so vulnerable. And we build all these fears. You know, we're full of fear. I'm full of fear.
Sure.
So acting has taught me how to be fearless in many situations, you know, and trust that I'm okay. And I remember another thing that Phil used to say to me, which became a mantra, is that you are enough. He would say to me, Ron,
that's a great one. Yeah.
You are enough. We don't need the other stuff. We just need you. So with you, with the lines, let me see what that looks like. Don't do anything else. Just read the lines as if Ron were reading them and put yourself in that situation and let me see who you are.
Yeah. And again, it's like that should be easy, or that should be like a no-brainer.
It sounds easy, but it's not.
Totally.
And you know, it translates. You can see where certain actors, they get that. And you can see it. It translates on, especially on film. Film picks every little like little photographic things. And when that camera zooms in, you know, you can tell, you start to see where people are pushing and where people are just relaxed, and it seems like a natural process. So you can start to distinguish those things a little bit, you know.
Sure. So when people talk about honesty and performance and how honesty is one of the most prized values in acting, it's almost like another way of looking at that is not, it just means not doing those big extravagant character choices, like capital C choices.
That's right.
That can kind of just distract, maybe. That's
right. I mean, some actors are very good at technique. They have this masterful technique, you know, whereas it's an old story. I might not be telling it correctly, but I think it was like Laurence Olivier was watching Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
In that story, and he says it's called acting.
Yeah.
You know, so certain actors, maybe like Laurence Olivier, had this impeccable technique to where you couldn't really notice whether he was acting or not. Whereas the way Dustin Hoffman worked, he had to be in it from the inside, you know. So it's a difference between working from the inside out and also working from the outside in.
Yes.
So both are valid. I
totally.
can't, you know, I only can speak, like I said, for myself and the way I feel comfortable doing it, to make it the most authentic and real as possible by, again, not acting as much as possible, you know.
I mean, I guess yours is closer to an inside-out approach.
Yes, right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
What's inside has to come out.
Yeah.
Or else it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real to me, you know. So, you know, there's the vulnerability that William has that Ron has.
Yeah,
you know, or a vulnerability that William has that there are men in my life that I've been around that are very much like William.
Yes. You
know, whether they be sick or the history of William, and also his character is very similar to how August Wilson writes characters. A lot of the men in August Wilson plays.
Oh, interesting.
Which is also a track or a line that I was able to follow back toward August Wilson when I first read William.
Really?
What came up was Memphis and 2 Trains Running, Elder Joseph Barlow and Radio Golf. I could maybe either 4 other plays of his where characters like William exist in his plays.
And this is not the writers of This Is Us are consciously doing this, or you're
no. Yeah. This is what as an actor, what I made the track to.
Yeah. And as a student of theater, it sounds.
That's right.
Like, yeah.
See, similar stuff that's already in me.
Gosh.
That you grab onto.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things, like going back and reading some of those plays again and listening to how those characters were talking. And it was like, oh, man, this is interesting because this character is very similar to how August Wilson writes these men.
Wow.
And they're these different men who have made this migration from the South to the North and the American migration from, slavery to post-slavery to Reconstruction to all these men are part of that line, and William's a part of that, musician, artist.
Totally.
So I thought about all the different musicians. I'm a jazz aficionado. He plays jazz music and blues. And so all of that connecting fiber is in me already, just from the things that I've done, the people that I know, and the history that I know. The history of this man is basically the history of the African-American experience in America,
That is so cool.
Yeah, so
this
it's
is something.
all
Do you
connected.
seek this out? Do you look for the inspiration?
Yes.
And do you
As soon as you start to read the character, that's where you instantly go inside. That's what I mean by inside.
Yes.
Inside my soul, inside my heart,
right.
Inside my mind.
What does this remind me of?
What does it remind me of?
Who
Who is that? Oh, man, that's Uncle
sounds
Jeff.
Like something. Yeah, cool.
He laughs like Uncle Jeff, or man, he eats just like Uncle Joe, or Mr. So-and-so down the street used to walk exactly like that, or that's exactly what Mr. Barry would say at the barbershop. That's the exact same thing he would say, man. So all this stuff would be flooding back.
Amazing.
That's exactly what August Wilson wrote with Memphis. That's what he was trying to say.
And it's not like you're stealing Man Down the Street's mannerisms. It's more like it's just in you.
In you.
Yeah.
You let it out.
Yeah.
And it tells you something about who you are also. It's like, that's the beauty now that I get and I love about the artistic and craftsmanship of acting is that there are all these different tools that have more and more tools, more and more fabric, more and more wood, more different types of developing saws and hammers. And it's just a wide range of things that are in my experience, And as I get older, the more experience I have, the more I have to give. So
the toolbox gets bigger.
The toolbox gets bigger.
And you're all in favor of trying new tools and trying new techniques or whatever.
That's right. Layers. See what happens. Put it in and see if it comes out. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. But you're trusting that it's going to happen. Yeah. And so far, that's the best way to work for me is, especially with a beautiful character like William. But I try to take that everywhere,
Put in the inspiration and see if it comes out.
See if it comes amazing. Out. And trust that it will.
That's so cool.
When you need it,
Yeah.
Because the fear is that it won't. And so then you try to think of something. Or when you rehearse, you try to repeat what you rehearsed.
Yes,
That's almost like a train wreck for me, because I'm anticipating already. Yes. I'm thinking ahead before the moment even happens.
Yes.
Because I'm not trusting that when the moment happens, I'm going to be there. So what happens is you start thinking, okay, what did I study last night? I want to do it like that. Same thing with auditions. You get them so fast. You're memorizing lines and you're trying to do what you did last night at the dinner table.
Yes.
Instead of studying it as much as you can, absorb as much of the material as you can, and then let the moment happen. Just sit down, breathe, and listen, and just let the words come out however they're going to come out, and trusting that they'll come out right.
Trusting.
Yeah.
Talk about trusting. I definitely want to ask more about auditions.
Sure.
But first, to kind of go back to the idea of theater, your brain is very much a theater actor's brain, it sounds like. I love this idea of the rehearsal trying to recreate or trying to get away from or trying to, because that is true in film and TV, or I guess in TV, you guys have a rehearsal process and then you have the event. Yeah. It always fascinated me in theater when a performance or a moment would happen. Maybe it's in rehearsal, maybe it's in a live performance, and you nail it and everything aligns. There's actually a pressure the next time you do it.
To do it again.
For it to nail it again.
That's right.
And sometimes it doesn't feel satisfying when it doesn't land as good as it did.
That's right.
That must happen all the time.
Sure does.
On camera as well.
And that's okay. See, the thing is to know that it's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a disaster because whatever comes out is going to be right for that moment. It might not be exactly what you did before, but the whole idea is not to do exactly what you did before. Life doesn't happen like that. I mean, you might get lucky if you can get in the car exactly the way you got in the car 2 hours ago, but something's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's the same car, it's parked in the same space, but you're not going to get in that car exactly like you got in the car last.
Totally.
Something's going to happen. Your foot was a little higher yesterday. Go back, do it again. Your foot was a little higher.
Yeah.
Now, that may pertain in certain instances on film for continuity.
Oh, sure.
Where your arm or your leg or your head or your...
Has to be, yeah.
Has to be, but that's more for continuity, not so much for what the character is
emotional
emoting.
Continuity.
That's right.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
The whole idea is to not repeat. You don't try to nail it again. You just try to be in the moment like you were, and then you'll nail it again in a different way.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
So you still nailed it, but it's just a little different from the way you nailed it last night.
Yeah, cool.
But you still feel good about it because the subconscious was there, you were there, and whatever came out. It might not be as gratifying, but still in all, you trusted
maybe
you were there.
Maybe it works in a slightly different way.
That's right. And the next audience member might say, wow, that moment.
Right.
Oh my God. And you was like, well, it wasn't like last night. It's like, but that doesn't matter to them.
But you can't deny the audience's experience. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where it's at, man.
Totally. And we as an audience get to read into what an actor is doing, especially when they're like still or silent.
That's right.
This is why I love reaction shots almost more than just action
or dialogue.
Totally. You guys are great at that, and This Is Us.
So many beautiful moments in This Is Us where the writers let the scene breathe.
Yeah.
I call it breathing, important. Where there's these silent moments of just eyes and mouth and facial structure and tone and mood. That's a good word, mood. The mood of the moment is captured. It's such a great cast, and all those cats are just so good.
Yeah.
So perfect at what they're doing, man. So it's a big honor as an actor to be a part of this project.
It's certainly a great way to just loosen up your tear ducts to watch This Is Us once a week.
That's for sure.
I want to ask, please take me back to the very beginning. You were born in Jersey. But you studied theater in Chicago. What's the trajectory?
No, I have an interesting path. I went to a 4-year college in upstate New Jersey in Mahwah Valley called Ramapo.
Uh-huh.
That's where I first got interested in the arts. I went to school to be a musician. I was a jazz aficionado, and I loved the medium and loved the music and took jazz history classes and improvisation class. I played piano a little bit of trumpet, and I went to a play, and I was asked to be in a play, at a musical, because they ran out of actors to do this musical. I was cast to be as like a dancer in a chorus, and it was a play called Pearly Victorious. Anyway, long story short, I got the theater bug and changed my major to theater, graduated with a BA in Fine and Performing Arts. I got out of college, and I was a wanderer for several years. I didn't really know if I wanted to do the pavement. I would get backstage and showbiz and go to auditions. Then I decided, I don't know what I want to do. I traveled. I came out to Los Angeles. I drove a bus in Los Angeles from 1980 to 84. I was a bus driver.
Okay. The hustle.
I came out here to stay with a friend of my mother's, because that's the only person that I knew in L.A. I would take the bus from Pasadena to L.A. just to see what the town was like, talk to the bus driver, got in a conversation. He told me they were hiring.
Interesting.
He said, they train you. You don't have to have any experience. I went down the next day, got into the training class, passed the test, and I was like, okay. I called my mom up and I said, I think I'm going to be out in L.A. for a while. I got a
cool.
gig driving a bus.
Yeah.
Drove a bus for 4 years and I missed New York.
Oh, okay.
Terribly. It was my first time away from the city and that long. And during my college years, that's all we did was we would go from Jersey to New York to go to the jazz clubs and go to all the different, all the music at Carnegie Hall and Avery Fisher Hall. And so came back to New York, had odd and end jobs, waiters, fell in love, and had my daughter. And then it was maybe 2 years after that, I was teaching school and hanging out at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe in the East Village, as I was doing often on the weekends, and got into a play about a jazz musician because a friend of mine had written it. We were in a class together, and he said, I want you to play the role.
Oh.
And so I said, okay, I haven't acted in years, man. I would love to maybe get my chops back together, and I did that play, and Meg Simon, who was a big casting director at the time, casting a lot of New York August Wilson plays on Broadway, saw me in that play. And a year later, we got in touch, and she had me come in to audition for a play by Cheryl West called Holiday Heart, which was going on tour. I booked it. And when I came back from the tour, I got my equity card, and she helped me get an agent, and then...
You were an actor.
Then I was professionally an actor.
And had you ever thought that would be the main gig?
No.
Yeah.
Not at that point.
No.
Because New York is such a hustle town, it's like you don't put your money on that too much. It was for me a more of a pleasure thing. It was like work, and then the pleasure would be in the evenings going to plays or getting involved in plays or going to hear some music or hanging out in New York. I mean, it was all the nightlife for me at that point. Every other night, if not every night, I was somewhere in New York on the streets in the evening, listening to some music, hanging out with some friends who are doing a play or what have you, going to readings and being involved in readings. And so then I got involved with Labyrinth Theater Company after several years, and that's where the seriousness of the craftsmanship I started to learn, and that was mostly through all those cats, John Ortiz, people like Sal, Vittorio Anzarello, who's now my assistant, Liz Canavan, Marlene Forte, Gary Perez, Paul Calderon, David Zayas, Liza Zayas, Cologne Zayas. I mean, there were so many wonderful actors like myself who had come from doing something else, who weren't getting cast in a lot of stuff. Right. It was more Latino-based. That's why it was called Lab, Latino actor-based. But it was more about actors who just weren't booking a lot of high-profile stuff, but they were still just some of the finest actors in the city.
Sure.
And that's why that company came together so well. And then with the adding of Philip Seymour Hoffman, who had a bit of success at that point. He still wasn't quite blown up as he became.
Right.
But that element just kind of shot us into prominence in New York as one of the more groundbreaking theater companies in the city at the time.
Yeah, cool.
And that's a big thing for New York, man, where you go to London and you just blow the whole stage open, man. And actors like Chris O'Dowd, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Tom Hardy. All these cats were still studying when we came to London, and they all came to see this play called Jesus Off the A-Train, written by Stephen Adly Guirgis.
I know it well, yes.
And we just blew the doors off of the London stage at the time with this way of developing this acting technique that Phil had sort of ingrained in us, and the way we were doing our plays. It was fast-paced, it was energetic, it was like unapologetic, no nonsense, like in-your-face type stuff. And I have actors that come to me today and say, man, I saw you in that play in London.
Oh my gosh.
almost 20-something years ago, man. And it made me want to be an actor.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Just really amazing stuff, man.
That's that memorable for someone.
That's right. And so from that point, that's when the severity for me that I could do this, I want to do this, and I am going to do this.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to make this a living. And I was separated from my daughter's mother at the time, and we were parenting still together.
Yes.
So even though we were separated, we weren't separated as parents. So she was still an artist. She was a singer. I was an actor. So there was some lean times, you know, but I loved it so much. I'd bring my daughter with me, auditions.
Cool.
You know, I remember her mom screaming at me because I'd have her at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe till 1 a.m. on a weeknight, you know, and but that's where I guess she developed her love of the craft also.
Of course, yeah.
And she became quite the singer and the actor, but that was sort of the path that I got on. And it, like I said, it was once I got involved with Labyrinth, that was it for me.
There's something about the scraping by or the low budget that forces you to really get in touch with your own artistic taste and to make choices.
And you're not doing it for a lot of money. It's not no money at all. So it's not about the money.
So it's got to be about the passion.
The passion. That's why you get another job.
Right.
You know, if you want to make money in New York as an actor, get a job.
You got to make sacrifices.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you can hustle in New York. I mean, for me, it's always been a town where you can find some ways to make money. So if you want to be an artist, you can do that. But also, you don't have to, I mean, you're going to be broke and you're going to struggle with money because of the times and the way things are, but that's the sacrifice you have to make.
That's the choice you want to make then.
If you want to make it, yeah.
And then how did film and TV start to factor in?
You know what? For me, it was the advent of cable television.
Okay, yeah.
You know, when I first started coming up, you know, in the 80s and early 90s, there weren't a lot of television shows like that,
TVs,
you know. So it was more about the diversity and the fact that cable shows didn't have to always look to established stars to make these monies, make money or have an audience. But I booked this show called Low Winter Sun, which was on for one season. But it enabled me for producers to see my face on a television show.
Yeah, cool.
So it was easier for me to have that on my resume. And so when I would go into other auditions, so then I booked, right after that, I started booking television stuff. I booked Mr. Robot right after that, who turned out to be a really big hit for one season. And then I booked Netflix stuff.
Luke Cage.
Yeah. And then my roommate, Stephen Atlee Girgis, was another writer for The Get Down.
He was your roommate?
That's right. I lived with Stephen. Well, I was his roommate for many, many years.
Doesn't he have a Pulitzer Prize?
Yes, a Pulitzer Prize. That's right, man. For Between Riverside and Crazy, which I was in with Stephen McKinley Henderson, Liz Canavan, Michael. Stephen had an apartment on Riverside Drive in New York, and he had a few extra rooms. It was the apartment that he grew up in with his parents. His parents had passed. God rest his soul, and his dad, who was like a father to me, and they gave me a place to stay when I didn't have a place to stay.
Amazing.
And he had an extra room there, so I spent many years there helping him with his dad and walking the dog, Poppy, and becoming a part of that inner family. And we were also theater company members together.
Sure.
He wrote 2 great roles for me, Jesus Off the A Train and Lucius, and also Rooftop in Our Lady of 121st Street. He also wrote a role for me in the other play, but I couldn't do it because I was performing in London, doing Othello in London. So The Last Days of Judas Iscariot. And Stephen McKinley Henderson ended up doing the role in New York. But yeah. So
it is
that's
about
how it was. Everybody was helping each other out, you know, and I needed a place to stay. I didn't have a place to stay at the time, and Stephen was like, well, I got this extra room, come and stay with me. And for off and on, it lasted for maybe over 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
Man.
And you're both just with the artistic mission of I'm going to focus on my craft and survive.
That's right.
Put together whatever survival jobs you need to do.
That's right. Yeah. And eventually, you know, the work begets work. I say that all the time. Work begets work, you know. Just work. Whatever it is you can do it. You know, Phil used to say that also. Just do whatever's in front of you. Do it and do it to the best of your ability. Do it with passion, because work begets work.
Yeah.
You know, and you it's just feeling like you're a part of a large artistic family, whether it be in Los Angeles or whether it be, you know, here that I've been in LA.
Yeah.
The beautiful part is that my resume and my history is resonating, because now people are like, well, who's Ron Cephas Jones? Well, Ron Cephas Jones goes back. He was in New York for 20 years.
I saw him in that play in London.
Yeah, I saw him in a play. So, you know, it doesn't take long now, and that it means something to come to Los Angeles with the resume. So even though I would have wanted it to happen years ago, it just didn't.
Gotcha.
But when it, you know, they say, you know, it comes. He may not come when you call him, but he's right on time. You know.
Cool.
So
yes. Well, and work begets work. You just got cast as of, I think, yesterday. It was announced in an Octavia Spencer. Is it a miniseries or a drama?
It's a miniseries. Yeah.
For Apple.
That's right.
Produced by Reese Witherspoon.
Awesome, man.
Amazing
awesome
group of people.
We started shooting that already. I did one episode, the pilot episode already. And to be able to be a part of that, you know, and that was an offer, you know, which was awesome and amazing.
And that's it's essentially because of This Is Us, right?
Because of
that's
This
the
Is
work
Us
begets
and
work.
the work. That's right.
Yeah.
This Is Us and Mr. Robot and Luke Cage and The Get Down and Low Winter Sun. So
that's so awesome.
It was awesome, man. And it's awesome to be a part of that project. Nichelle Tramble, who is the head writer and developer of that show, is amazing. It's an amazing cast. And so I still got about, you know, there's still 8 or 9 episodes, still it's a 10-episode series. Apple TV's new to the game.
Very new.
They're developing, Oprah Winfrey's attached to them, and she's going to be developing some things with them. So we'll see. I'm very excited about it, at least as an actor for the work. The writing is also amazing.
Cool.
And that's the one thing that actors, first thing you do is you open the script, see where the writing is going, and you can tell right away if the writing's really good, you know, so...
and whether you can trust the writers.
That's right. So
especially with TV.
That's been great. So, you know, things are good. It's been a busy time. Just this thing with Tom Hardy. I got a couple of scenes in his new movie,
cool.
Venom.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, which is coming out in October. And I hadn't seen him in over 20 years. And I mentioned him earlier. He was just a kid running around in London, was still looking to work, and he flew himself over to New York to one of our intensive just to be a part of our group. That's how impactful that we were at the time on many English actors at the time. So,
and you certainly never stopped to think, we're going to be in a superhero movie one day.
Ever. Who'd have thunk it? You know, we both were laughing about that, you know, and he started telling the crew and everybody stories about when he was, you know, when we were in London. So it was such a beautiful, gratifying moment to hear him tell all these people. He's like, yeah, man, this guy right here, you know, the play that he did. And so...
those artistic families that you're talking
circles, man.
That's what's really gratifying about your work.
It comes back around. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Do the work. Put in good work. People will remember your work.
This is all really great advice for working actors, especially maybe those downtown New York theater artists who are working the side hustles.
Yeah, I know. I still have a lot of friends and prodigies who still call me and we talk, you know, and I just pretty much tell them what I've gone through. All you can do is relate your own experience and you know what you feel and what you go through, you know. But in the beginning, it's really about just having a love for it.
Yeah.
I have a good friend who just had a child, and he was so worried. He's like, I'll be a father. I probably won't be able to be an actor because I got to get a regular job. And I was like, who says that?
Yeah.
Where do you get that from? You know, it's like, I mean, I got regular jobs, but it doesn't have to be permanent.
Right.
You know, you'll find a way. If you love this craft and you love doing it, you will find a way to do it all.
Yeah.
And it was a blessing for me to have a child during the course of that struggle. It never dawned on me that I would not do this. She was a part of that inspiration. When I would look at her, I would say, I'm going to do this, and we're going to do it together, and I'm going to do it with you, and you're going to do it with me. And so for me, having a child was inspiring as opposed to, oh my God, I got a kid and I got to get,
right.
I got to get a regular job
anymore. Yeah.
No.
It's a shift in perception between like maybe embracing the idea that you don't have a ton of control as an actor over your career.
That's right.
Versus just saying, I'm choosing the life of an actor and
manifest it.
Yeah, I'm choosing to have faith that it's going to happen.
Have
that
faith that something's going to happen with it. And if it doesn't, then I'll work. Yeah. I'll get a job. I'll teach school. I'll do this, whatever it is that I need to pay the rent, put food on the table. But that still leaves room to be an artist, to be a craftsman.
Yeah, you could find passion in other areas and other ways. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. Is there anything that if you could go back in time and tell yourself or warn yourself, is there anything you wish you'd known back in those early days?
Well, yeah, but not so much craft, just more personal stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like I recently stopped smoking cigarettes about 3 months now.
Oh, wow.
And I wish I would have known back then. I wish I would have stopped smoking a long time ago because it did a number on my body for a minute. Yeah. I think more personal things,
I mean, that's good advice too.
Yeah. I would have probably taken care of myself a little better. I came up in the 70s and 80s and there were some wild times, very wild times, different set of rules back then, so just to be able to survive through all that, and be here. So there's a lot of little things like that. But as far as the craft is concerned in my career, I wouldn't change a thing.
Cool.
Everything had a reason.
Great.
Now that I look back, I was like, I'm glad that happened because it made me the actor that I am today. And had I had done something different and had more success in my 20s or 30s, I might not have appreciated as much. And I'm sure I wouldn't have been as good as I am now.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's good to hear too.
And I only say that because I have the experience and I've seen the work and I believe in my work. Mm-hmm. But I'm 60 now, so I can say that, I do believe in my work and I do believe that I'm at the top of my game right now,
Absolutely.
But I only can say that because I can look back and see what I've done to put into that.
Exactly.
To be able to hold my chest up and say that proudly and with truth and honesty,
Yeah.
So
if your 20s and maybe even your 30s are filled with struggling in a downtown theater scene.
And a lot of
that's
fear.
Making you a better artist. And a lot of fear, yes.
You grow up, I had so much fear. I mean, I'm sure so many people can relate to that, but it's one of the crippling things that we grow up with. It starts from our parents to school to just, even today, there's a lot of fear-mongering, and headlines and stuff to make us afraid, don't eat that, don't do this, don't do that. And so we're just full of fear, So
Absolutely.
Took a lot of years within the craft to understand it, to learn what fear is and how to deal with it, how to meditate, how to be alone, how to listen to my inner self, learning about the energies of chakras. And it only comes with age and time and experience, so.
Time can help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give yourself some time, know that it's a 10-year town, as they say, It's a 10-year town.
I've not heard that.
And cool. LA might even be a 15 to 20-year town, you know what I mean?
I think that's important for some listeners of this podcast to hear.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to be patient, and there are some that will hit right off the bat, and it's about trying not to compare, which is the other thing that's
so hard.
So difficult not to see someone else have success and you feel like you're being jilted or that you're not doing it. It's like, well, look at him or look at her. Why are they having that? And why they're not that good? I'm better than them. And it's comparing. You only compare yourself to your own growth. And if you keep that in perspective, you can see and really understand how you're growing. By comparing yourself to how you were yesterday and are you better today?
Yeah, okay.
Are you better today than you were last week? Is the scene better today than it was last week? Is the season of the character more developed this year than last year? What new beautiful things can I bring to the character this year that I didn't have last year? So those are where my comparisons are limited to my own development. And that's where they should stay and not with someone else's development.
Right.
I have no control over that. I have no control over them.
Yeah.
And if it's not mine, then it wasn't mine to have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Milo said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's right.
That act of not comparing, that's something that requires practice? It's like a muscle,
Oh, my
too.
God.
Yeah.
It's just innate. It's within it. It's competition. It's the competitiveness in us, you know?
And it's the nature of the industry, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can go and do laps to get faster, you know? You can't.
Really.
It's not like that.
There's a certain amount of luck involved, too.
There's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of random decisions involved.
Yeah.
That's why when you go into an audition and you nail it and you don't get the job, it can be so devastating, you know, because it's like, but that's a part of what it is. It's not about the booking. It's about you went in, you did it. Mm. And then everything else is like a byproduct of that, you know. And it will happen, you know, it will happen. Maybe like not in your time, but it will happen. But that's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's very difficult not to compare. Yeah. And it still rears its ugly head every now and then.
Yeah, even when you're...
That's right. Even when you're doing stuff. That's right.
Yeah.
Even when you think you're past it, there's that little monster that creeps in, you know?
Yeah,
and you have to arrest him right away. And at least I do. I just tie a knot around his neck and get rid of him, you know, because it has nothing to do with me, you know?
Yeah.
But that's a hard one to learn. It takes some time.
It's like you gotta cook that into your system.
That's right.
Bake it.
That's
like,
right.
And the same is true of that. I just love that idea of the feeding your subconscious with inspiration.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's very true of acting a specific scene.
That's
but
right.
also like life.
That's right.
That's how you live life.
That's how you live life. I mean, when you're in a car on the freeway and someone's about to cut you off, it's like that. Do you make a decision to just let them cut you off? Or do you start wrangling for that position? And then you get all upset and it's like the competition, you're not going to take this from me. And it's just a lane. And it might take you an extra minute just to let go. Right. And let this person do whatever they're going to do. You haven't moved maybe 2 inches at the time that he's gotten in front of you. But it's like those kind of moments is how you can practice that kind of stuff. You know, it's like, well, where do you find yourself trying to do something that you don't need to do? You know, it's like, it has nothing to do with me. Why am I trying to battle this person, like, argue this person when it has...
Yeah, take it off your plate. If you can simplify it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. If you look at it from that perspective and you can be aware of those moments and see how you can let certain things go, hopefully that'll help.
Yeah.
But it starts with those little personal moments, you know, so that you can walk into an audition, be prepared, do the things you need to do, and then walk out and not say, oh my God, I really hope they hire me. And you do. And then the process is that you don't get a phone call if you don't get the job. You only get a phone call if you do get the job. So you don't know. It's like you don't know how well you did. You don't know if they liked you. You don't know if they liked what you did, you know? And how to let all that go.
Yeah, and how to let it and make peace.
Make peace with the fact that you're there and you did the work, you know?
Yeah.
And eventually it'll resonate, you know?
And is it true also that auditions, you see them as an opportunity to perform, even if it is for 3 minutes or whatever? Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
You know, actors will tell you that often, you know, especially the ones that have been around a bit. It's like, you know, it's an opportunity to go in and do some good work. You know,
it's a good philosophy to have.
The more you audition, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
The better you get at letting go. So, you know, cherish and prize everyone.
Yeah, and I love that idea of you can only compare it to your own growth, specifically your own personal growth.
Very important.
That's the metric.
Very important.
Yeah.
It's almost like we forget ourselves because we're so busy comparing ourselves to someone else.
Right.
You know?
Those benchmarks. Those benchmarks of other people.
That's right.
They can haunt us.
It's really interesting. It's a behavior that all of us have.
Absolutely.
You know, in one way or another, and it translates to other parts of our life too, you know. But it wasn't until I started to learn that I also learned that there are other parts of my life that I do that same thing. I'm start comparing myself to situations that I have no control over, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very, you know, it's you don't have to do it alone. You know, it's like that's the other thing. It's like be around like-minded people. You know, go see plays. Go. It's not just also doing, but supporting. You know, and supporting other plays, supporting other films. You know, and now with social media, it's like so many different ways to talk about it, but get out there and don't just talk about it, but get out there and do it, be a part of it. That's a big part of being an artist too, is like being familiar with who's doing what, and
those artistic families you're talking about, those can take on many different forms.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Good friendships, good family type stuff, good food, good social environments, where you can still, your whole life there's a different parts of your life, not just the work, but the playtime too, being around like-minded people and having conversations about different plays that you might read or film scripts that you might get, or who's doing what and who knows who and that kind of thing, being familiar with different names and people that you want to work with and having those names on your tongue.
Yes.
So somehow it manifests. Those people start to manifest. It's like, then you go, man, I just was talking about you last month. For some reason, it manifests itself by the energy, by being around that energy.
And it all serves as inspiration.
That's right. It's inspiring. It makes you feel like you're a part of this bigger picture, this bigger family, and then these little inner circles. And it happens all the time. It's like circles begets another circle, begets another circle.
Totally.
And then it all comes back around, and
beautiful.
I have tons of stories like that I can attest to, that's what the artistic community is about.
Yeah.
It's like getting in and having your name at a reading, and then your name will go under her lips, and her lips, he's looking for that kind of actor I just saw at the reading, and give them a call, email, and things pop up, and you go, oh, wow, I just got an email from so-and-so they're looking for, and I thought about you, and are you available? And so there are these random moments that come up that you didn't
totally
even think
unpredictable.
about or planned, unpredictable. So it's about being ready, being prepared. So when those things pop up, you have the confidence, you have the fearlessness to go and jump on it, and do it. So
prepare that subconscious.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, awesome. Ron, thank you so much for joining us. This is really awesome.
I love this. This is really great, man.
Good.
It's comfortable, easy, a little coffee, a little water.
Yes. I really feel like I set out to dig up all of your actorly secrets, and we got some actorly secrets.
We touched some good stuff,
It's
man.
like I just wanted to extract, like, how are you such a good actor, and how can other actors, like, learn from that? And I think other actors are going to learn from this interview.
I hope so. I really do hope so, man.
In the Envelope, an awards podcast, is recorded at Lotus Productions, Hyperbolic Audio, and Big Yellow Duck in New York City, and Soundbox LA, Mark Grouse Studios, and Buzzies in Los Angeles. Like, rate, subscribe, tell your friends, and follow us on Twitter at In the Envelope. Thanks as always to producer, editor, and all-around podcast extraordinaire Jamie Muffett, and thank you to the team at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting. That's Peter Rappaport, Rawaan Alkhatib, Francis Ramos, Caitlin Watkins, Lauren Routt, Mark Stinson, and especially Kasey Howe. For more awards and industry coverage, head over to Backstage.com. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another glimpse in the Envelope.